minute, Jack. This is a friendly celebration.
I don't much like the way you celebrate.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is 4 Men in America, and we're joined tonight by Paul Fitch and Ken Bennett, and we hope that Jeff Hooch joins us here at any time. Zack Taylor is in the waiting room, so we'll let Zack in. But we're going to start out tonight. Ken Bennett had a rant that he wanted to tell us about last week, and we're going to let him take the floor tonight and tell us what his rant was that he's been holding for a week. So it's got to be good here. So we'll let him go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to rant how pleased I am. Hi.
Hello,
George?
Zack.
Is that Zack?
Yeah, hi, Zack.
Third time is a charm.
Welcome. Don just told me to do my rant that I kind of saved from last week and referred to right at the end. My rant is I could not be more happy to see that the Trump administration, Department of Homeland Security, has put Heather Honey in as a deputy, I guess, undersecretary of some sort. But she is going to be the person that is in charge of looking into election integrity. And she's drawing all kinds of fire from the left. Which you would expect. But I'm pleased to say that I work with some people on the left, Democrats, independents, and I know, well, one of them is a fellow in Tucson, John Brakey. John's had an election integrity organization down in Pima County for more than 20 years. And he was questioning the integrity of Pima County elections more than 20 years ago. And I think with good reason, because they were playing fast with a $2 billion tax increase years ago called the, all had to do with RTA, the Regional Transit Authority. But I have come to believe that there are even Democrats and people on the left like John Brakey and other members of the board that I'm now working with on his organization. It's called Audit USA. We actually got to work with Heather Honey in the Maricopa audit 3 years ago when we audited the Maricopa election for 2020 for the presidential race. And even though the audit ended up confirming by hand counting the ballots that Maricopa unfortunately supported Biden over Trump in 2020. And I know a lot of people still question that, and that's fine. But we hand counted almost 2.1 million ballots. And Heather Honey, I think she was from Pennsylvania or somewhere back east, was, she wasn't there at the beginning of the audit, but then they brought her in. And I found her to be very credible, very straightforward. She was not trying to tilt the scales one way or the other. She was just trying to do a good job on the audit. And later I got to work with her after the Arizona audit was done. The next year I got to work with her on some on a lawsuit that she was supporting in Pennsylvania about seeing if the courts would agree, and they did initially, although it was overturned at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, unfortunately, that copies of anonymous ballot images and the cast vote record where the votes were recorded should be public records. And she was successful in getting I think what would be the equivalent in Arizona of a superior court to rule that for transparency in our elections, the copies of the ballot images and the cast vote record where those votes are recorded are public records that people should be able to see and validate to make sure that an election was done correctly. So I just wanted to rant that I'm very pleased that Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security has put Heather Honey in. And I know of some Democrats and people on the left who feel that Heather will do a good job, although she's taken a lot of flack from others on the left right now, including Fontes, our Secretary of State here in Arizona. But I believe Heather Honey is a is an honest person, a straightforward operator, and will help the U.S. government get to the bottom of election integrity.
Great. So go honey. Huh?
Right. Go Heather.
Hey, so thanks, Ken, for that. That's good. Good news. And those good news, those things are always good to hear. So Paul Fitch has a little item to enter into the record tonight, and it's about Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia made some comments that a lot of people are displeased with. And so tell us about that, Paul. Can't hear you, Paul. Can't hear you.
Ram.
There we go.
Okay, I'm on.
You're on.
Yeah, I just got this flash this morning that he made a statement during a hearing that he didn't believe that our rights came from the Creator. They came from the government, and that the belief that our rights come from the Creator is what they preach in Iran, and is a theistic government, theocratic government thought. And it's just flies in the face, of course, of what our founders said about our country and our rights. And it's just amazing to me that a man who sits in the Senate of the United States, who swore an oath to God to obey and support and defend the Constitution, can come up with that thought. I mean, just to come up with that thought is appalling. To speak it out loud, it borders on treason, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a slap in the face to all of America. And I just thought I'd mention that to the group for their thought processes.
Couldn't agree more. If you believe that our rights come from government, then government can take them away. And the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were to protect our rights from being taken away by the government. You cannot assign our rights to having been granted to us by the government. It's outrageous.
No.
Yeah, and I guess he's taking a lot of flack for it, huh?
Good.
I wish they Ted Cruz suggested he leave the Senate.
Good. That'd be a first step.
Yeah, that'd be a good start.
Get rid of him, right?
What do you have when you have 100 lawyers buried up to their neck in sand?
Yeah, or 50 lawyers drowning in a pool. It's a good start, right? Yeah. That's the definition. So,
the answer to Paul's limerick is if they're buried up to their necks in sand, the answer is you don't have enough sand.
Very good. That's good, Ken. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys. We're talking to all the Arizona guys right now, and I found out today. I sent out the Arizona flyover today to the Tea Party group. But one of the questions in there is, what is the state drink of Arizona? This was a law signed by Doug Ducey, making X the state drink. Do any of you guys know the answer? I do know the answer, it's not a liquor drink. It's nothing like that.
If I had to guess, it would be some type of sun tea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if I were going to guess, I'd say iced tea of some kind. Yeah.
Iced tea or sun tea or.
Anybody? Zach? Paul? Any guess?
I got no clue on that.
Okay, it turns out to be lemonade.
Lemonade.
Lemonade is a state drink of Arizona. Yeah, so there you go. So the other thing I want to talk about is I want to squelch all the rumors about Alcatraz, our deportation. Yeah, Alligator Alcatraz, our deportation center. It is not closing. It is not closed. It is deporting people. They're bringing new people in, and there are no plans to close it. So they've already appealed, and they're quite confident that judge's ruling will be thrown out. And plus, we have a new center up in northern Florida, and I hear was it in Louisiana? They just opened a new place.
Yeah, I think that was it.
And they're opening one in Nebraska too. Yeah. So So they're just popping up all over the country now, right?
You know, my greatest fear about that is they build all these deportation containment areas, and if we get a Democrat president and Senate and House, they're going to become FEMA camps for dissident citizens who oppose the government's Stalinist activities.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of talk about FEMA camps the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we got to make sure that J.D. Vance is the new president of the United States, and then we won't have to worry about that for 4 more years. So
eight more years.
And then 8 more years, right? And then we're going to either elect Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio for 8 more years. So
I got an issue with Marco Rubio. He's not a natural-born citizen, so we got to be careful about that.
Well, we'll get DeSantis, but we got it planned out for the next 20 years, guys. So
excellent.
Like we have total say in the matter, right? We're going to direct that happen. So hey, I want to recommend a movie to you guys. I watched a really good movie last night, and I finished watching it today because Patty went to bed last night, and I couldn't watch the movie because she was in bed, so I had to stop. But it's a Charles Bronson movie. He is a chief of a border patrol around the San Diego area. You'll like this, Zack. And it's called Borderline. And it's a really good movie. It's really a positive message. It was filmed in 1979, and at that time they put a statement on the movie at the end of the movie that they had caught 1 million border crossers in 1979, and they estimated that 2 million had got away. So, and guess who the bad guy was in the movie? He made his first movie. This was his debut. You know how they say introducing so and so? Ed Harris. He was the chief coyote, and he was running the whole show for this rancher. So it's very interesting. And they were not only bringing people into the San Diego farmland area, but they were also shipping them up to Chicago and New York, and it was a big human smuggling thing. So, but it was good. It was a good movie. I don't know if you guys ever seen it, but it was free on. I think I watched it on Tubi. I don't know if you guys can get Tubi. Tubi, but if you have a smart TV, you can get on Tubi, and a lot of free movies, and it was on there. And most Charles Bronson movies are worth watching. He hasn't made too many bad movies. So, and he usually survives. He's not one to, you have to kill me at the end. Some reason we have some guys that they just have to die at the end of the movie, right? That makes it better. So, anyway,
what was the first movie that John Wayne died in?
Well, I think it was the one where he was a deep sea diver. The Wreck of the Red Witch or something like that, right?
I thought it was True Grit.
No, it was True Grit.
No, he died in. There was a movie called Wreck of the Red Witch, and he was a deep sea diver, believe it or not, and he died in that movie.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think he was I think this was before he made Stagecoach. So it's pretty old.
Once he became a top biller.
Yeah.
He didn't die very often in a movie.
No.
But I think I was told True Grit was one of the first movies that he.
And he died in the Cowboys.
He let his character be killed off in the movie.
Yeah, and he died in the Cowboys. And my mom wouldn't watch the Cowboys because.
Oh, maybe that was the one.
He got killed in the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was all the little kids that he went out with.
Yeah,
I think that is the one.
Yeah,
I think that's the one.
Yeah, they retaliated for him after he Bruce Dern. He beat up Bruce Dern, and then Bruce Dern killed him. So
I think it was the Cowboys was his first. Anyway,
he said, "What did he say?" He said, "I had a broken back. I had this. I had that. I've had this." He says, "But on my worst day, I can beat the hell out of you." And then he did. Typical John Wayne, right? So okay, let's get into flag burning. And I don't see Jeff on yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start this topic. And you know that President Trump wrote an executive order about flag burning, and I'm going to put that up on the screen. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the executive order.
Have not yet.
Let me see if I can get over here now. I'm going to share a screen with you. You know, sometimes this doesn't go well, guys, so bear with me. But this has no sound with it, so okay, I hope you all can see that.
Oh, there it is.
You see it okay, everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
really.
Can you see it, Ken? Zack?
I might have to put some cheaters on here.
Okay, well, section 1 is purpose. And it says, the last paragraph says, notwithstanding the Supreme Court's rulings on First Amendment protections, which was in 1989 of, I think it was Johnson, was it Texas versus Johnson was the decision, but it was a 5-4 decision, and Texas versus Johnson, and it turned out Alito voted with the 4 Dems, which is really interesting to me. I never seen him write about that, but anyway, he says, the court has never held that American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action or that is an action amounting to fighting words is constitutionally protected. And he says, my administration will act to restore respect and sanctity to the American flag and prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating the symbol of our country to the fullest extent permissible under any available authority. So you go to section 2, it says measures to combat desecration of the American flag. The Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent possible of our nation's criminal and civil laws against acts of the American flag desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws while causing harm unrelated to expression consistent with the First Amendment. This may include, but not limited to, violent crimes, hate crimes, illegal discrimination against American citizens, or other violations of American civil rights, and crimes against property and peace, as well as conspiracies and attempts to violate and aiding and abetting others to violate such laws. Any comments?
Well, yeah, I think this is something that I think I expressed that in my little note to you, Don.
Yeah, you did.
I said, I didn't think that you should criminalize burning the American flag under the First Amendment, but they should also reward with national recognition and cash people who knock the stuffings out of people who burn the American flag. I've often been
which has happened before too. Yeah.
Yeah, I've often been afraid to go to some of these rallies they have up there with in the communist North, because I was afraid I was going to stumble across somebody who was burning the American flag, and sometimes you stumble real hard, and they can get accidentally injured, and that to me is that you just let the vigilantes handle this. Just turn them loose.
Ken, Zack, any comments?
Let's see how it works out.
Obviously, it'll
I
be.
don't think.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I'm just wondering. I don't ever recall. I know we had to pass some laws in the Arizona legislature to protect people's right to display the American flag and a few others, the military flags, the state flag, in homeowners associations that sometimes try to clamp down on what people can put up. And so we've got some laws to protect people's rights to be able to display the Arizona, American in Arizona and other military flags. But I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know what the law is in Arizona as to, is there a penalty? I just quickly looking online here, there is a U.S. code, 18 U.S. Code 700, that says desecrating, defiling, burning, mutilating, defacing, trampling. the flag of the United States is against U.S. law.
Yeah, they just they arrested a guy for burning a flag right after he wrote this executive order. Some guy burned a flag up in one of the parks up in Washington D.C. I don't know which one. They arrested him for setting a fire, which is against the law in the park, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're using other intent or other crimes to, if they burn a flag. As an example, Part B says, in cases where the Department of Justice or other executive department or agency determines that an instance of American flag desecration may violate an applicable state or local law, such as open burning restrictions, disorderly conduct laws, or destruction of property laws, the agency shall refer that matter to the appropriate state or local authority for potential action. So I guess my question is, after reading all that and everything, is his executive order in violation of the Constitution, or is he still working within the bounds of the decision of the court and free speech? Knowing that we're all not attorneys, and I understand that, but just your opinion.
I've always believed burning the flag was wrong, but protected under free speech. So when was the decision of the Supreme Court that you were reading?
It was 1989, Ken.
89. Well,
yeah.
So I grew up as a boy without that in place.
Yeah, Texas versus Johnson. And when they ruled, they said there were 49 states that had to throw out their laws about flag burning.
Really?
It took away Texas's law. They had a state law against burning the American flag. So.
Well, and then there's the situations where people put the flag out upside down.
Yeah, which is a sign of distress, right?
Is that a sign of distress?
It's meant to be.
Is that an acceptable sign of distress, or is that just is that another version of desecrating the flag?
No, that's an acceptable sign of distress. It's in the flag code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If for instance, you're a military
code.
Hey, there you go. If you're a military guy and you're in a bad situation, one of the ways to signal that is to fly your flag upside down where you're at, right?
When Obama got elected, I put my house flag out upside down.
There you go.
And met the editor of the Green Valley News when he even knocked on my door and asked me what I was doing. and I told him what I was doing and why I was doing it. And he wrote an editorial, and I don't remember all the details. It was relatively neutral, but what he said was, Paul Fitch is a wounded combat veteran from Vietnam. He believes that the direction of the country is such that it is in distress and it's a problem, and you don't know whether to give Paul Fitch a Three Stooges poke in the eye or a pat on the back. And so that's how I met Dan Shearer.
That sounds like Dan Shearer. Dan Shearer's probably interviewed Ken before.
I think so.
Yeah, I bet he has. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that Patty and we did an interview with Dan Shearer about the tea parties. He wanted to know all about the tea parties back in the day, and so we know Dan pretty well. And he and years later, Paul, he wrote a nice article about you and your your service in Vietnam. So
well, he and I were getting along okay, except we ran crossways, I guess you'd say, when I sent him a letter that said I didn't think it was a good idea to force the COVID-19 vaccine, an untested, unproven injection, into our entire military at the same time. And he wrote back and said, I'm not going to publish your letter because that's fear-mongering. And we've been cordial, but not buddy-buddy since then.
Yeah. And as it turned out, they fired a bunch of people, and all those people have been reinstated if they want to go back into service. So,
my concern, of course, was if it turned out to be worse than it actually was, it wasn't good, but it was. If it had been worse, we could have wiped out half our military,
Of course.
all at the same time.
Yeah.
This just doesn't make any sense. But that was something that somebody in the Oval Office thought was a good idea.
Were you in the service, Paul, when we got the Hong Kong flu shots? That would be
No.
1969, 68, 69.
Yeah, I was. I was in Vietnam in 68 and 69.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, we had
But I
to.
could have.
Yeah, I was at Keesler Air Force Base training, and we had to get the Hong Kong flu shot. They herded us all out of the barracks and got us down to the. I don't remember where we went. It was outside, and they sprung out the Hong Kong flu guns and shot everybody on Saturday morning. And the next day, about 50% of the base was sick.
Yeah.
I mean, really sick, and the other half was okay. So, yeah, there's something like that could have happened with the COVID shot, and of course, there's the long-term effects that we're finding out about now. So,
Right.
and that's one of the reasons Bobby Kennedy's, being raked over the coals by Congress, or by some of the congressmen, not all of them, but because he doesn't believe in these unproven, untested vaccines. So
The vaccine schedule had reached some level of insanity. I think there were something like 119 before you're 3 years old vaccinations that are recommended by the CDC. 100 it's over 100, whatever it was.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm a big believer in MMR, mumps, measles, and rubella, right?
Rubella.
But other than that, I don't know. I don't remember any other shots that our kids got. I guess I remember getting a polio shot when I was a kid,
ET.
Which turned out to be a miracle vaccine, right?
Yeah.
But
I had the shot and the sugar cubes.
yeah, so
But
So-
for mumps, I don't think my parents got me the vaccination for mumps. They just made me go into the room with a daughter of a friend who had the mumps and made sure I got it when I was young.
there you go.
Oh, really?
That was the cure.
And we probably all got TB tested, right?
Yeah.
I think TB test. I think
holes in you.
yeah, I think the TB test was. But other than that, until I got in the service, and then they just had so many you couldn't. I went back and looked at my old shot record. I can't believe it, man. You name it, and they gave it to you.
What was the
Especially
one
if you-
that left the? What was the one that left a little disconfiguration in your skin on your arm?
Well, that was a
Chicken pox.
Chicken pox. Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
the chicken pox one.
yeah.
I
I already.
have gotten that one.
Yeah, I had the chicken pox, so didn't help.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I
too.
got it or not, but it didn't help me. And chickenpox, you know what happens after chickenpox when you get older, right?
Yeah, shingles.
Shingles, oh boy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've had that too.
yeah,
I've had the vaccine and the shingles.
yeah, I got the Shingrix, the 2 shots, shingle shot, the Shingrix they call it, with no side effects or whatever. But I didn't want to deal with shingles. We had a Navy admiral that came to our Raytheon meetings, and he had the shingles, and he would travel. And shingles is pretty contagious, I understand, but he would travel and come to our meetings, and he was just uncomfortable and just in misery. But I don't want to deal with that in my older age, so I went ahead and got the Shingrix.
Yeah, I had shingles from my spine around my left side to my belly button, about 5 or 6 inches wide.
Bad,
It was a
right?
pretty miserable couple of weeks.
I'll bet. Yeah. So what did they treat you with, Paul? Do they have an antibiotic to give you, or what do they give you?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
It goes away.
Calamine lotion?
No. That's for poison ivy. Not
Well, I
sting.
know, but it's for itching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I don't remember any treatment. I think you took some antiviral.
Yeah.
Kind of an antiviral.
I bet CQ10 would work on shingles. But anyway, so back to the flag burning. I look at this, and I'm sorry that Jeff didn't come on with us, yet, at least not yet, but I wanted his comments. I know he feels strongly, how strongly he supports the Constitution, but it looks to me like that President Trump was and his staff were very careful about what they wrote in this executive order, and while allowing free speech as far as flag burning, they're going to punish people that if there's any connecting law, I guess that is applicable, they're going to punish them. So
this is a segue into an issue I have. Antonin Scalia was one of my favorite Supreme Court justices till they murdered him. But the issue, he one time said, and I can't remember what he was talking about, for somebody who theoretically believes that our rights come from God, if yelling fire in a crowded theater. And I think First Amendment rights are First Amendment rights, but making a physical activity like burning the flag a speech issue is where the disconnect comes to me. I don't think burning the flag is an issue of freedom of speech.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that, and I kind of look at it like I've always thought of it as a hate crime. Before they made laws for hate crimes, I look at it as a hate crime. If you hate the country, to
me it's almost
you burn the flag.
To me, it's almost like the abortion issue. If you have the right to life, liberty, and happiness, life is a constitutional right from God, and if you take my life, you've violated my constitutional rights in the harshest possible way. But you've also violated you've taken a life, and this argument about when does life begin? Life begins at conception, as far as I'm concerned, and so anything after that is done purposely is murder. Now, that's just my country boy attitude. So you don't have an absolute right to murder somebody, even if they're in your own body. That's the way I feel.
Good point. Any comments?
So
Go ahead.
So for clarification then, Paul,
Go ahead.
If you struggle with Scalia's declaration that none of our rights are absolute, and you go to the, yelling fire in a theater, you made a distinction between the yelling of the word fire isn't the crime, it's the harm that might be done to one or more people as they react to something that doesn't exist. Are you saying that people should have the right to yell fire in a theater?
No, I'm saying the crime is not yelling fire. The crime is causing damage, causing harm to other human beings. That's what a crime is, and that's why today we have so many crimes that don't have victims, but people get punished for them. And you've got things like the EPA. The EPA was never it was never anticipated by our founders that there would be such a thing. Secondly, it's an executive office, an agency of the executive branch, and yet it makes regulations that can put you in jail, or fine you, or cause you great financial and emotional stress. And these things are if you go back to the Constitution, and Jeff and I see this eye to eye pretty good, there are only 3 crimes in the Constitution: counterfeiting, piracy on the high seas, and treason. Those are only 3 crimes enumerated in the Constitution. And every other crime was considered at that time a state issue. If it happened in Massachusetts, it happened in Massachusetts. The federal government was supposed to take care of us externally and handle interstate issues like commerce and things like that. So if you're burning a flag in Texas, that should be covered by Texas law. Now, if you carry that burning flag across the Oklahoma line, now you're into interstate movement, or whatever you want to call it. It's like when the FBI gets involved in kidnappings when it crosses a state line. I think they're now involved in every kidnapping, but the point is, the federal government keeps expanding and expanding and expanding its obligations and its activities far beyond what our founders wanted from a federal government.
Yeah, and there was
And so-
there was never any federal police force in the Constitution either, right?
Right.
Which
And so-
came later.
And yet we've got the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. I think it's stacked up sideways is 6 feet tall. You know.
Well, it's like
and-
murder, right? Murder is against the law in every state, right?
Right.
People still
And it's-
murder. People still murder people. So making it a federal law and saying the feds are coming after you if the state doesn't punish you, murder's murder. I mean,
We also have
you
laws
don't-
against double jeopardy.
right?
And yet you take those poor cops that in the Rodney King thing, I think it was Rodney King, they tried him in California for brutality or whatever that was. And then they tried him in the federal courts for the same crime, but called it civil rights issues and charged them under civil rights laws. So, you know, we just, did I ever tell you my theory of Elias Carrier?
Go ahead.
Well, see, I believe that Elias Carrier is the culprit in all of our problems with the federal government. You see, when Washington was formed, it was a fetid swamp, and Congress formed up in January and went home in March, and because nobody wanted to stay in Washington, and then Elias Carrier came along and invented air conditioning. And what happens to a congressman who goes from 3 months to 9 months, to a year of things to do and make himself re-electable? He creates laws. And now we've got all these federal laws. Anyway, that's just my theory. Jeff's smiling.
Think it's
So-
a good theory.
Yeah. So Jeff Hooch has joined us, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got Ken and Zack Taylor and Paul all on the line here.
All right.
Jeff, and we've been talking about something you wanted to discuss, which was flag burning. And if you'd like to comment, we'd like to hear your comments about. We put up a copy of the executive order and what President Trump had lined out in it, and we discussed that a little bit. But we'd like to hear your view of the executive order and what you think. Are you just going to be pure, it's unconstitutional, or are you going to?
Well, I mean, a little context. I don't know what the history's gone over, but in 1989, Texas passed a law to try to outlaw flag burning.
Right. We talked about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which the Supreme Court then said, no, that's unconstitutional, but it really shouldn't have been unconstitutional if the first 10 amendments to the Constitution would not have been incorporated into the states. So it's really depending on that. And then, of course, Congress passed a law the next year trying to ban it. And that didn't go over very well either with the Supreme Court. And so if you can't have the legislative branch or a state do it, then I don't think an executive order is going to fly.
Did you have you read the executive order, Jeff?
I have not. No.
Yeah, you. I think you need to do that. That's your assignment.
Okay, my assignment, but quite frankly, if it says that the president is somehow banning flag burning, I find it very hard to believe. It doesn't matter what it says; it's not going to stand scrutiny.
No, it doesn't.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't really say that.
Okay, all right. So that's why.
Yeah.
But when we're talking flag burning, an executive order saying against it, then I'm assuming that's what it has.
Well,
Now. But
they're very careful in the writing, and when we looked at it, and it's tied to other offenses like a local offense where you can't burn something in a certain area, right? Or tied to a property crime. So they've linked it to other things, including federal and state crimes. It's pretty interesting. That's why I say you should read it, because and then we'd like.
Yes, I should. Yeah. So they're trying to thread the needle.
Oh, they're threading the needle. Yeah, and they're purposely pushing against, the arguments that were made back in 1989, obviously, and to get more definitive or, put up or shut up. So why do you think Alito voted the way he did? Did you ever read his conclusion about it? Because he was one of the 5.
Right. Well, it was very interesting. I went over that. The answer is yes, but not recently. But the ruling of the Supreme Court in that was not split liberal conservative. There were those on both sides of the aisle. And so I don't remember the details, but I do know Scalia is one that shot it down. And, he was known as, at the time as the most conservative on the Supreme Court until Thomas came in. And so this is why I think it would be worth, quite honestly, a state passing a law again to see if they could outlaw flag burning and see how this current court would come through. I'd be very interested in hearing what the conservative judges said, and are they going to be on the same side or not?
Yeah.
And I think the tariff issue coming forward soon in front of the Supreme Court, I'm going to be really interested on how Clarence Thomas rules on that. And I'll defer to Clarence Thomas on almost anything because I think he's brilliant. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's very good.
And he's educated on the matter. And I don't see how he's going to come down on Trump's side on the tariffs, but I will wait and see if he does. And I'll be interested to hearing his arguments.
Yeah, I just hope that Justice Thomas hangs in there for a couple more years or a little while longer.
Absolutely. So sorry to interrupt. You guys continue on what you're talking about.
No, that's good. You're obviously on the road and probably heading back to home.
Yes. Well, the one thing I wanted to mention, I was on James T. Harris's radio show yesterday talking about, Trump calling out the National Guard in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I brought up the story, which I think I've told on this podcast, of the James Otis being the father of the revolution and the our history and local policing and why it's so important. And I did even use the term of un-American. We want to make America great again. And one of the things that makes us great is local policing. And so, Trump does have the authority to protect federal property. He does have the authority to go in and enforce federal law like immigration law. He does have authority to send in the National Guard if requested by the governor and encouraged by a mayor. But he does not have the authority to send on the National Guard to use them as local policing supplements if not requested. And I even went as far to say that it's un-American to do so. And this is why I think it's so important that our leaders are steeped in the Constitution and our history. So what came up on the radio show, which I think is a brilliant idea, is that then just forget the democratic states and cities. They can wallow in their own mud and go to Republican states with Republican governors that may have blue cities and start to show an example of what can be done when a governor and the federal government work together, congruent with the goals that each other has. And then if you can straighten out New Orleans or Baton Rouge or these other cities in red states, what a difference that would make.
Yeah.
And just really, they're just not very smart. And the way they deal with crime, no, I'd rather our people get killed than get an offer from Donald Trump. How can you possibly, it's just ignorance. And I'd even go so far as to say stupidity to the nth degree.
Yeah. And I guess I'm hearing, or I saw recently, where the DC, do they call her a mayor? She's been working along with everything. She's getting all kinds of accolades now because she's been working with the feds and calming down her city. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but I heard that. So
well, I think it's great.
It's good. Yeah, I mean,
happy.
Yeah, you can't be against somebody that you're solving a crime problem. No matter it's not a Democrat or Republican issue, and that's where the Democrats make a mistake. They make it an issue. They're pro-crime. That's a pretty dumb move, right?
It is a dumb move, and it really goes to show how ignorant people are.
Yeah.
Especially Democrats, and I'm sorry to say that, but look, we learned from the founding fathers, if you share a similar vision, there's room for compromise.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we should have the same vision on crime in the cities.
Yeah.
But they are concerned about, you know, who the messenger is, or what happens if Donald Trump comes into our city and actually cleans it up. Then what we've been saying actually isn't true, just like the border under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
We can't clean it up and then show the differences or the delta in governance styles and what can and happen, and they're just afraid of that. And so rightfully so, the president's frustrated with that because he say, you guys are crazy, which they are.
But I agree with you, Jeff. Let them wallow in their own mess.
Until they force new leadership.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. But the people will rise up eventually. Now, it may take them a while, and you got the press working against the president, who's going to be telling them, well, if he'd have come in, things would be worse. Well, after your 2 children have been murdered and your husband's murdered, how much worse is it going to get, you know? And I think this is one of the things that we can let ride and let it stew in its own juices, more or less.
Yeah.
But Paul, you know, think of the sick mindset you have to have on the left to be willing to let your people die, whether it's just from allowing fentanyl to come through, and it's all because of wanting to maintain power. Mm-hmm. And they put that ahead of all the other priorities and principles they should have. And it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It is. And you see that.
highlight.
You see that. I see that. Zack sees that. Ken sees it. Don sees it. Pretty soon, Democrats in those blue cities and states, they'll see it too, and that's when the wind will shift. But right now, they don't see it as a problem until it gets to their doorstep. So.
Yeah, it's like economic problems, you know, until when your neighbor gets laid off, you sort of say, well, that's too bad. But when you get laid off, it's a whole new story, you know. If you're trying to go down to the local market and you can't go down there without being yelled at or harassed or assaulted, or, you know, you'd think that would really wake up people, right?
Well, sure, it should wake up people,
Yeah.
but what it doesn't wake up are the bureaucrats, government employees, or elected officials, because they are not affected by it.
Yeah.
They get a paycheck no matter what. So
Exactly.
the ones who have the most effect on our well-being have no consequences from their own actions.
I'm going to play something on my phone. I don't know if you guys know the new sheriff up in Pinal County,
Hey everyone.
Police Mark Lamb.
Lady called.
Russ Teeple. Ross Teeple is the new Pinal County sheriff.
I don't know anything about them, unfortunately.
I'm going to play this for you.
Recently, lady called 911 here in Pinal County because someone was breaking into her house.
There's some guy, he came to my door, but he went into my neighbor's house.
This dispatcher gave excellent advice. I'd like you to take a moment and listen to it.
He came into my garage, he's trying to get in my back door. Okay, lock your doors, keep them all locked. Do you have a firearm with you? I do. He's in my garage. He's trying to get in. Go get that firearm.
While the incident was still going on, Sergeant was monitoring the radio traffic, and this is his direction that he gave.
The subject's trying to get in the house. They have the right to use force.
I couldn't be more in agreement with the direction my dispatcher gave and what the sergeant gave over the radio. Remember, if you want personal protection, buy a gun, learn how to use it, learn when you can use it. I'm Sheriff Ross Teeple, and I approve of this message. Hey, everyone.
Oh.
Recently,
Wow.
lady called 911.
I have a man crush already.
Was breaking into her house.
Yeah, that's pretty good, huh?
That is very good.
Yeah, and he's right. You know, buy a gun, learn how to use it, and learn when you can use it, because whatever state you're in, the defense laws are a little different. So I just saw up in Canada where some guy broke into a house and he had a fight with the owner, and the owner whooped him up good, and now the courts have charged him with assault and battery, the owner of the house.
Gracious.
They also charged the guy that broke in with an offense, but they charged the guy for beating him up, the owner. So, if he'd have shot him, you couldn't turn that around, right?
What, the message is that I think is so great, and I don't know that sheriff, I'd sure like to meet him.
Yeah.
Is that, women have the ability to handle a proper firearm that fits their frame and strength.
Sure.
As well as any man.
Yeah.
And it is the great equalizer.
You bet it is. Yeah.
And they can be anywhere, go anywhere. And if they're confident and have the proper mindset on how to use it and when to use it, when not to use it, it's a very powerful tool.
Just let everybody know, most shooting ranges have a ladies' day where they can go shoot for free. So, all you got to do is buy the ammo. And I would recommend a little 38 special if you're a lady.
That's an interesting thought, Don. I bought my wife a 38 special and she didn't like it. She wouldn't shoot it.
She wanted an automatic?
She now has a 22 automatic, semi-automatic. Okay. And she's getting pretty good with it.
How many rounds?
Carries 12.
Okay.
And there's a new 22 long rifle called a uppercut. That's designed, the 22 long rifle was designed to be fired out of a rifle.
Right.
And so when you fire a 22 long rifle out of a pistol, you're wasting part of the propellant because the propellant is set up to burn smoothly all the way out to the end of the 16-inch barrel. And that's when it reaches maximum velocity. When you shoot it out of a pistol, it only goes 6 inches before it leaves the barrel, and all that extra energy is wasted. But the uppercut is set up to burn in 6 inches. And so it's achieving full velocity going out of the barrel and being a much more effective thing. It's a little 32 grain hollow point, which gives it exceptional speed and expansion. And my readings and studying of firearms is such that they've interviewed criminals who have been in gunfights or been accosted, and they said almost to the man, any gun I look into looks like the size of a cannon. And so the 22 kills more. The 22 caliber round kills more people in the United States than any other round.
I did not know that.
Now, this is a little known fact, and the reason for it is not that they're so terribly lethal; it's that they're used so often because they're the cheapest kind of gun you can get, and so the gangs and everybody else is carrying 22s and shooting people with them, and there's like an 80% recovery rate of people who are shot with a 22, but they're still the most lethal because more people are shot with them, and 20% of a lot of people is more than 30% or 50% of 100 people.
Yeah.
So that's why they get things. But it is not a toy round. We almost lost Reagan to a 22.
Mm-hmm.
He was a quarter of an inch away from dying when Hinckley shot him. It went through under his arm and into his chest and stopped a quarter inch short of his heart. And if he'd hit that ventricle, it would have blown it out, and he'd have bled out right there on the scene. Because you can't do emergency repairs on the street unless you're a surgeon with the proper tools.
Yeah.
So a tourniquet wouldn't have helped him at all. Anyway, so I recommend, and a lot of people down here recommend 22 for women because it's the recoil is light. You can carry a lot of ammunition. She's got 5 magazines, which she never has to use any of.
Yeah.
And you can also buy from a place called Laser Hit a 22 caliber laser cartridge. You can't usually, if you find them for most pistols, they're too big for the 22 because of the batteries. This fits in the barrel instead of in the chamber, and it sends the laser beam out from the action of the hammer. So you can use it for dry firing. I've got a whole dry firing setup in my guest room because we both practice with that. So,
There you go. That's a good idea too. Yeah, there's a lot of good dry fire things out there for people, and so good. That's a good recommendation, Paul. I personally, I have a 40 caliber Glock laying on my nightstand that I would use when I go out. I have a 380 that's got a 13 round clip, so it's just a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to conceal. But I'm always surprised. Sometimes the police, there's a good video on about a guy he was in downtown LA on Figueroa Street. I think I talked about this, swinging the machete around. Mm-hmm. And the cops chased him down, and they finally got him driving circles in the middle of the street with his car, and he got out of his car and ran toward the cops. The policeman driving got out. The passenger policeman, his partner, got out the other side. They both shot the guy. One guy shot 5 times. I think the other one shot 6 times. But people always question, they say, well, why did you shoot him so many times? Why did you have to shoot him so many times? They've never been in the situation where they had to shoot somebody in defense of their life. So
you have to stop him.
Yeah.
Shoot until the threat stop.
That's right.
You just have to shoot till they're down, right? And that's just the way it is. And you don't get to guess about it.
There's a great old story about a nurse that had the midnight shift in Dallas, and she would go home on the bus every night. And some friends told her that she should carry a gun to protect herself, so she bought a gun, and she went home one night, and sure enough, somebody accosted her, and she shot the guy 6 times. And the cop asked her, why did you shoot him 6 times? And he said, because the 7th time they would click.
Yeah, I was going to say she could have said, I only had 6 shots. So, right. Great, guys. Well, it's good to see all of you tonight. We're about the end of our hour here. We're coming up on 57 minutes, according to
I caught you.
Yeah. Good
Zack,
job,
you've been awfully quiet, Zack.
Zack, you got anything to say before we leave? What's your rant for the week? Anything?
Have past presidents ever invoked martial law? Didn't Lincoln invoke martial law?
He did. Yeah.
Didn't he command the troops?
He did.
So if we are now operating under martial law, what would the president's power be?
Well, I think a lot of what Lincoln did was unconstitutional, Zack, just so you know.
No, I'm asking a perspective question today. If we were under martial law right now,
or you put a city under martial law,
what would the president's power be?
Well, first you'd have to have the right pretense to declare the martial law.
Well, let's just say that's happened.
Yeah, that's happened. So we're under, I want to hear, we're under martial law. What's the president's power?
Well, he's the military commander. He's the commander in chief. It's absolute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He would. I'm not going to agree to that yet, but I will stew on that. I don't, because yes, I mean it would take. Look, as an American, we should err on the side of liberty, and so if a president's going to declare, but if we do actually reach that threshold, yes, I would say. Under emergency powers, that power could be utilized for a short period of time, but you'd have to have Congress come in and back him up. I mean, look, Lincoln recognized what he did was unconstitutional, and he did. And he had Congress ratify what he did after he did it, just to kind of clear him, because he, even said, look, should I obey all the Constitution and lose the Union? And so his higher priority was saving the Union. The problem is, if everything's an emergency, then nothing really is. We can say we have emergencies everywhere and just give away our liberties left and right. But
that's not the answer to the question. The question is very simple. if we are under martial law, what are the president's powers?
Yeah, well, the answer to the question is whatever the public decides to give him. Just
So
like
he's
under.
gotta- what good is it if he's got to wait around for permission?
Don't they vote? Doesn't voting for him give him the permission? Electing him?
Well, no, what I'm saying is if the people decide to kick back against that,
Yeah.
then they're going to rule. So it just depends on what we're going to acquiesce. It's kind of like saying, what are the king's powers in England against the colonists? Well, whatever they're willing to submit to.
Well, they kicked back against it in L.A. and it didn't do them any good.
Right.
They got a
Yeah.
dose. They got a dose of it. So
Yeah. But Zach, I think you're right. Short term, yes. But man, I'm not one that would be willing to live under that very long.
I mean, I think that right now you could declare martial law in Chicago. Chicago's out of control.
Yeah, Chicago's out of control, but I think it would set a bad precedent, in my opinion, to, again, get used to or set the precedent of the federal government doing local policing outside of complete insurrection. And you can find it wherever you want, if you want, but I'd be against it. I would totally be against Trump going into Chicago.
So Jeff, during the Watts riots, where they burned down, they just burned down hundreds of blocks of LA. It was horrible.
Right.
They sent in the military, and the military went in with guns ablazing, right?
Yeah.
And they killed 6 or 8 people.
Okay. Did the governor request assistance during the Watts riots? I believe he did.
I think he was pressured to, yeah. But I think
well, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, but I think the president was leaning on him,
Yeah.
because they were destroying the city and attacking everybody. So it was sort of a combination of a perfect storm.
And then you always have posse comitatus.
Well, remember Kent State.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that got out of hand a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah. But what drew the troops to Kent State? What drew the troops to LA during the Watts riots?
Well, I think
Here's the point. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And worry about the fallout later. When it comes down to saving a large number of lives and maybe preventing a whole city from burning to the ground, you do what you got to do to keep it from happening.
Yeah, with the Watts riots, I would agree. I'm not sure we're there in Chicago, but I'm just careful about, because, Washington said that the downfall of nations comes when the government does what is expedient rather than what is lawful. And so what is even practical or pragmatic at the time, but unlawful, is what ruins nations, because all of a sudden you have arbitrary or law by fiat.
Okay.
So, that's my opinion.
Let's continue this conversation next week. Everybody going to be available?
As far as I know.
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll take it up next week. Put this on the
That's a good
agenda.
one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And thanks for coming on late, Jeff. We appreciate you coming on while you're
Thank you,
driving.
guys.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Ken. Ken, thanks for your rant. And we
Go Heather.
Yeah, go Heather. Go honey.
Go honey. Yeah.
So we will see you all next week on 4 Men in America. Thanks, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. And take care of yourselves.
Absolutely.